Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Ariel Property Advisors, Customers Bank, Capital One Bank, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Castamatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends. Dalton, I'm going to be a mom. I don't know. Subsequently, I'll go to Yale. Maybe I'll become a physician. I'll go to Yale again. No, I need an MBA. All of a sudden, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start companies. I'm going to get involved with stem cell. I'm going to get involved with the Vatican. I'm going to get involved with foundations. I'm going to help maybe with cures. I have a investment banker, I have a entrepreneur, I have a physician, I have a urologist, I have Manhattan-born Dr. Robin Smith. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me about the family. Let's go to dad's side and then mom's side.
So my dad's side came from Russia. I think the name was Smiga, and they cut it when he got off the boat, and it became Smith. And they were in the real estate business.
Where were they residing, your dad's side, when they originally came over? Any idea?
I don't. And then they came, and they were in Riverdale, is where my dad grew up. He was in the family business. My father was very smart, Ford Scholar, graduated '57 from Yale, so it was a no-brainer that's where my sister would go and I would go.
Right.
And so that was the Yale tradition. I don't even think we applied to Harvard. And he was in the family business, which was steel, windows, some real estate, and then he really was a curtain wall expert and built his own business.
I knew your mother and father. Tell me a little bit about your mother.
Her background was more Hungarian, and they were in the garment business, the family. And my mother really spent her life both raising us and doing philanthropic work, sitting on boards and supporting my dad.
And we have pictures of mom with her sister, I believe, right?
Yes, my mother's sister was 9 years older, Carol Kaplan, who married and became Carol Channon. And then when they divorced, she ended up marrying Roger Stone.
You were born, what, 54 years ago? Something?
Yep, I was born in 1964. I
Right.
had an older sister who was 4 years older, living in Manhattan on 57th Street. It was one of the buildings I think our family had owned. And we would take that bus to Dalton every day for school. And
you continued Dalton
all the way through.
So tell me about growing up and going to Dalton.
I think it was a little sheltered. It was a lot of interesting people. I certainly got a great education, and it definitely prepared me for college. But I learned that there was a whole world out there when I went to college, which was very different.
Tell me about your summers. What did you do?
I went to summer camp. I think when you're 7 or 8, your parents say, we want 4 weeks or 8 weeks of our own. So
right.
off I went. And then I went to some tennis camps, and then I started to work. I worked on a campaign and just different jobs.
Now, I realize that since Dad went to Yale, it was destined. Did you apply anywhere else?
I did. I applied to Penn and Brown. I liked Brown a lot. But Yale seemed to be the tradition. We all were in the same college. As it turns out, my sister married someone who went to Yale. I married someone who went to Yale, and it was, and my sister's son went to Yale. So it really is a tradition.
Now, when you and I got together, you said to me, you thought you were destined to be a housewife. What changed that you decided to become a physician? I mean, it wasn't in the family history, okay? It wasn't in the curtain wall, wasn't in the garment center, it wasn't in the real estate business. It was a different field.
Very
different. And you had no family who were physicians at this time.
No, I definitely, in many ways, am the black sheep in that regard. I loved psychology. That was my major in college. I loved helping people. I was very interested in medicine. I used to stay glued to the television shows, Quincy and others, and I just became very interested in doing the most that I can to help people, and went down a road and a career that has just been very, very exciting.
So you graduate Yale, what year?
I graduated undergraduate in '86.
Did you go immediately to Yale Medical School?
I did a year of research and then went to Yale Medical School.
What type of research were you doing?
It was really interesting. So at that time, we were looking at the parts of the brain that could regenerate through the olfactory bulb, which is really interesting because come 30 years later, I get involved with stem cells. So it's very interesting how that comes full circle.
So where did you do the 1 year of research?
I did it at Yale, and then I stayed and went to medical school.
So how does this young lady go into a profession which most people believe you're going to have mostly males, urology? How do you decide to become to specialize in urology?
I loved urology because it was an area where people were sick, but you could intervene and really make them better. So it was a surgical specialty, which I liked. I was always good with my hands and just loved the industry. I loved urology. I preferred more the male urology than the female, which was interesting, more some of the cancers and some of the surgeries that
Now you did your intern in residency where?
I did it at Jefferson in Philadelphia, and then realized that medicine was changing so much, and it was important to understand the business aspects. It has to be sustainable, how you could have an impact. So I did a fellowship, actually, in managed care, and then I got my MBA.
So you started Jefferson in what year?
92.
The residency is 3 years.
So in urology, it's 2 years of general, and then you start urology. I did a fellowship, and then I got my MBA at Wharton. And I worked at the same time. So I think when you're a physician, it teaches you how to think very analytically, and going back to business school was not that difficult.
How do you end up in Texas next?
So, one of the few people at that time that had an MD and an MBA and really was able to understand the business principles of medicine, and I was recruited to a company that was working on managing the radiology piece of healthcare in a way that was cost effective, but yet high quality.
So now you get involved with radiation?
Radiology.
Radiology.
So it could be CAT scans, MRIs.
Okay, but for urology specifically, or just in general?
No, it was just in general. It's sort of the whole field of medicine. I still saw patients 1 day a week as long as I could, but then it got a little difficult to say you can only be sick from 9 to 12 on a Friday. It's hard to do that.
So when do you create your first business? I remember, what, it was 95 or 96?
Yeah, so 97. So I was in Houston, and I was part of another company, and then I started a company, which at that time, when the internet was booming, was called I Need a Doc. It was like the Yellow Pages online, and I ended up changing the model to be more of a multimedia, like a WebMD, but in a way that you could localize the internet. So it was information, but then if someone said, yes, I want LASIK surgery, you could go in Houston, because that's where I was at the time, or in New York, and it was a way to use radio and television to more tailor the message and help as a resource for people to know where they could find the care.
How long did you stay in that business?
So I built that for about 3 or 4 years, and then we sold the business, and I came back to New York.
So now it's like early 2000s? Mm-hmm. Come back to New York, and what are you doing now? I mean, the entrepreneur is not going to go practice medicine. Entrepreneur is going to create another business. So what
Absolutely. So I started to help grow a few companies. I got involved with one of the hospitals, Hospital for Joint Disease in New York City, and became chairman of the board, and started to work a little more closely with NYU Langone Medical Center, as it's called today. And then I started to realize, boy, these stem cells, the part of our...
So what created the motivation on the stem cells? I mean, this is 2000. There was big question. There was also a question with the Vatican, which we'll talk about in a little while. But what was the desire? What, going back to your undergraduate, the 1-year study, why stem cells?
Yeah, in medicine, we do so much to treat symptoms, but not cure diseases. And stem cells was really the first opportunity to see how the body naturally heals itself and what we could do with the cells to cure a disease or regenerate tissue as opposed to have to just treat.
Now, did you start a stem cell company?
I did. It was a very long time ago, and I was introduced to a company through my entrepreneurship of getting involved with the company, and we bought a company that stored stem cells. So just like when you have a baby and you could store stem cells from the umbilical cord and placenta, we started a company that allowed you as adults to have your stem cells stored so they would be there for you.
Now, is that the company that you raised significant, like $250 million?
We did, and we acquired 6 different technologies, different companies, and really built some of the key assets in the field of regenerative medicine. At that time, there was 450 clinical trials in stem cells, and now there's over 4,500 and 30,000 cell therapy trials.
Now, during that period of time, you were, I think, nominated for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur Award and some other things.
Yeah, we're one of the fastest companies, growing companies, and we really put together the pieces. What we realized is with stem cells and cell therapy, the key to all of that is where do you get the cells, and then how do you administer them back to the patient, and how do you keep those cells alive and do it in a way.
So where do you get the cells?
So you can get it from the fat, you can get it from your bone marrow, you can get it from teeth, you can get it from placenta and the cord from the baby.
Okay, so you get the cells, and then what do you do?
So there's a lot of different things. We've done this for 40 years, which is a bone marrow transplant. You have chemotherapy, it destroys your immune system, and you're able to get a bone marrow transplant from someone else's cells. But what we're learning is there's many different cells in our immune system, and how do you get those cells to either regenerate tissue, like in the heart or in the knee for cartilage, the wounded warrior, or there are other cells in the body that you can teach to kill cancer cells, to stop the autoimmunity in autoimmune disorders, and really take cells, manipulate them, and put them back into the body.
So when did you create the Cura Foundation? Or the initial foundation wasn't called the Cura Foundation?
It was STEM for Life. So when we started, we couldn't even have a conversation of what the business was, because as soon as you said stem cells, it raised a whole bunch of questions.
It was a criminal terminology.
Right. A lot of people were extremely negative. And people really didn't know at all what it was. And so I had created a foundation. I said, who would be the most against this, and who would have the greatest voice? And so I went to the Vatican.
How do you go to the Vatican? I mean...
as it turns out,
This was what, 2010?
It was 2007.
2007, okay. So it's 11 years ago you go to the Vatican. Who do you reach out to the Vatican at that time?
So the Pontifical Council for Culture is the group that reports to the Pope directly on things that they will have a significant impact on life, on culture, on society, things in the natural sciences as well as in the environment. And so I educated them that the advancements in the field were in the adult stem cells. And Cardinal Ravasi is a very forward-thinking individual, very thoughtful.
Now, his role at the Vatican is what, Cardinal?
He was the president of the Pontifical Council for Culture. And what he liked about the work is that it really could dramatically improve people's life, reduce human suffering, and it was consistent with their beliefs. So instead of saying the 10 Commandments, all the things you shouldn't do, you could get behind something in a positive way and get people excited and inspired and understand that they don't have to make a choice between science and faith, and actually we could build bridges between different religions, different communities, all around the world.
So when do you create the first event?
So the first event was in 2011, and our big speaker at that point was Tommy Thompson. We were really excited. You know, he really understood healthcare.
So what was the event in 2011? I know that in April of 2018, you had the fourth.
We had the fourth.
But let's talk about the first, and then let's talk the progression, and then let's talk about the books over there.
So that was very focused on stem cells, you know, what this was, what was happening in the world of stem cell therapy, where the advances were, and how, from a regulatory perspective, you could get an understanding of what it would be to develop cells like you would a drug. So instead of taking drugs, it would be a cell therapy that you'd get a prescription for, and how that was.
So how many people came to the first event?
So I would say, I mean, there were only 346 seats. So I would say at that point we had maybe 250. We had a student ambassador program, so we brought kids. And
did the Pontiff come?
Yes, we always were very fortunate in having support from the Pope on these endeavors. So at that point it was Benedict. And he was really taken, you know, aback with what we had done, was very impressed with it and the difference that it made, and wanting to help people understand the importance of the research, and that understanding that science and faith could really work in concert. And so he said we needed to do more, since only 356 people could fit in that hall. So we wrote a book called The Healing Cell. And
so what year did you write The Healing Cell?
We did that right after. It was a year later.
But how did you get Max involved with this?
You know, so I knew Max through a lot of the charity work that I had done at the Hospital for Joint Diseases, and you know, he's so smart. He's got a PhD from Princeton in understanding of all the sciences, and he has such a unique skill in taking something complicated and making it not only understandable but relevant. Why does this matter to you? And so he was on the board of the foundation that I created, and we went together to the Vatican and did our very first event.
Now, I think I remember hearing something that Max's father had dementia or Alzheimer's.
So Max's father was an OBGYN in Florida, and he ended up getting Alzheimer's.
Is there any situation with stem cells and cells and an effect on Alzheimer's?
Yeah, it's a great question. At this point, nothing concrete. And it's very unfortunate, because over 40% of people who are over the age of 80 do get Alzheimer's, and none of the drugs so far in development has been found to be successful. So hopefully some of the research will.
So that's the healing cell. So what's the difference between the healing cell and then the new book that came up, Cells of the New Cure?
So, you know, there's so much to learn from each other in medicine, and medicine has become so siloed. When you're a urologist, you go to the urology meetings, a cardiologist, the cardiology meetings. And one of the things that we did very unique is we brought different specialties together. And what we've started to learn by people working together is that you can have a big impact on the cells of the body. And I think the best example of that is immunology and oncology, and putting together an incredible field right now called immuno-oncology and immunotherapy, and using the person's immune system to fight diseases like cancer, beyond just infection, to cure those diseases.
Now, your business involvement, have you ever been in the pharmaceutical companies?
More biotech.
More biotech, but not
the exit is the pharmaceutical company.
Right, I understand.
But more biotech. But I have found, people are very critical in many ways on the pharmaceutical companies that they're not innovative and wouldn't like these type of technologies to be developed, but we've never found that. We've always been able to partner and find exits for companies when the proof of concepts have been
Now, how do you get, I mean, you've been involved with so many people, many named celebrities from all walks of life, including Meredith Vieira, Katy Perry, Joe Biden, Dr. Oz. How these people get involved with this decision to help you get more involved, and also the fourth event, the Unite to Cure, which took place in April.
Right. So, I think the important part is to realize that medical issues affect everybody, and there's always something close to each person's heart. With Meredith, her husband has MS. There's Peter Gabriel's wife had cancer. Joe Biden's son died of brain cancer. So, many people are very passionate about helping to find cures and to support these areas of research to help other people.
So let's talk about the most recent event. You had much more than 364 people on this one.
We did. We had over 600 people at the Vatican, and it ended up, we had 3.4 billion media impressions. So we really had a very large impact beyond the walls of the Vatican, which was exciting. And the theme here is, how do you prevent, repair, and cure diseases and prepare for the future? Because innovation is rapidly changing how we're going to deliver healthcare in the future. And you have to prepare for that and understand how this is going to have an impact.
So how is the event set up this year in different segments?
So that was the theme that we had. So the first day was more on prevention. We talked a little bit about diet and plant-based diet and some of the data and research. We had a panel on meditation showing how that can have an impact on stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. Children, especially in inner cities, they had done some very interesting research at the David Lynch Foundation showing a decrease in arrests of children in areas and really having an impact on their lives and sort of showing that there are techniques to make people healthier. Clearly chronic disease is affecting many people. It's one of the areas now the WHO is really focused on. So what can we do to prevent people from getting sick? And then once they are sick, what can we do to help treat the disease and even cure it?
What's the next step for the Cura Foundation?
I think for us, we have really created a Davos for healthcare. And by bringing people together, it seeds many incredible initiatives that people start working on together and really having an impact on health and society and even the regulatory environment to help people have an opportunity to try the therapies. I think after 16, there was the 21st Century Cures Act, which was a way to, help get these treatment to patients more quickly. Now, of course, there's the right to try ability that was recently put into legislation so that people who are dying for compassionate use can try some of these therapies that are still in clinical trials.
Now, what's happening with, medical school has changed, the training of medical school has changed. What effect has stem cell and all the cell work had on an effect today in the medical schools, on the training of the next generation of physicians?
I think people are learning. Regenerative medicine is a field of its own. I think people are starting to learn a little bit more about how to use the cells to treat diseases. I think the trend that we're seeing, which is so interesting in medical schools, is many schools now are starting or having a program that's a 3-year program. So it's more focused on population health and
right,
technology.
and many of the 3-year programs are geared for training of general practice
in the community.
In the community, right. Because the community doesn't have enough.
That's right.
But the problem is the cost of medical schools are too high. So what's the next step for Dr. Robin Smith?
Oh, well, I've been really excited to help companies grow and help companies get funded and continue to build the foundation and create venues to help support some of the research financially and bring hope and healing to people around the world.
The books I know are available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and other places, but how do people, and they want to learn about more, how do they gain insight?
Yeah, the Cura Foundation is the website. They can always reach out. You know, there's on the government website, the clin.gov, you can see the NIH, those clinical trials that are underway, and it's pretty easy, so we can send the links for that. You know, I think the key is to try and learn and become as empowered as you can through education. And what's interesting about our books is they're really not technical. They're great science, but it's really based on patients and patient stories, and trying to make it interesting and understandable, and help people want to be compassionate for another, to do the cheek swab to get into the bone marrow donor registry, and the things that you can do, your genes. You know, we're learning so much now through DNA about subtypes of illnesses and how to better treat them. So that's the idea, is to more personalize medicine, to get people access to care and treatment that will work instead of more trial and error. And we're seeing that in mental health, we're seeing that through mind analytics, we're seeing that through cell therapy, and determining what the right treatment is when people get sick.
So I'm going to say it was really good that, you know, that you didn't follow your initial dreams growing up at Dalton and becoming a housewife, okay? And I think knowing your late mother and your dad, I think they are proud, and everybody I know is proud to know Dr. Robin Smith, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, it's really a pleasure. But I have to say, those moms who decided not to work have a great job with themselves of trying to raise their kids, so we have to appreciate and applaud their efforts as well.
Thanks again.
Thank you.